Hi, this is Megan Patterson and welcome to SMB TV. Today we're speaking with Michelle from Team Hemley Sports. This is part of our special COVID-19 series where we talk to business owners about how they're coping and how they see the future unfolding. So grab a seat, sit back and enjoy.
So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problems. It's nice to chat to you. Haven't been able to chat to too many people lately, so you always embrace these opportunities.
Some kind of face-to-face. So just to let you know, Michelle has her own business that she'll go into in a second, and she's also 37 weeks pregnant and so imminently about to become a mum, so we're even more grateful for her time. All right, I'll hand over to you if you don't mind giving us a background of you, like where you've come from, what the business is, what made you think of it, how you transitioned into it. Just give us some background.
Yep. Well, that's a long story, so I'll try and keep it relatively short. I've been involved in sport my whole life. So I was a competitive swimmer through high school. Always knew I wanted to work in the industry. And then on leaving school, I went and did health and exercise science, and then proceeded over the next 10 to 15 years to work every single job in the industry, I think, because it actually is a lot more diverse than people think. I think when people hear that you've done exercise science, they just presume you've worked in a gym. I did work in a gym. I also worked in swim school coordination. I worked for the government in sports strategy, for federal government and for local government. I worked in health promotion. I worked as a coach, as an elite coach. I worked in coach education.
Swimming?
So I had a whole range of experiences. And I actually really enjoyed being a government worker. I think a lot of small business owners don't like that. But I really did enjoy the security and being at the forefront of all of the information that was coming out in Australia at that time, going to all the leading conferences, etc. But what happened was I was living in Queensland and I met my husband, Dale, overseas. We were both racing the Hawaii Ironman triathlon together.
Oh, wow. My husband's training for a 70.3 at the moment.
Oh, is he? Which one?
Well, it was hopefully Melbourne.
Of course. Yeah,
celebrate his 50th birthday, but now we'll wait and see.
Yeah. So well, that's a bit later in the year, so he might still be able to do that. So yeah, we were both. This was 2006. So over the course of the next 4 years, we got together, got engaged, got married, and had to decide where we were going to live. And yeah, moved down to Torquay in Victoria, which is where I currently live now. Yeah, for the warmth, exactly. And yeah, once I moved down here, it was great, but I guess it was the first time I'd ever lived regionally, and the lack of job opportunities, particularly in my industry, was really quite confronting. And to start with, I actually had a transfer with the Australian Sports Commission, which is now called Sport Australia, and I was working in Melbourne. So I was travelling from Torquay to Melbourne every day, gradually hating life a little bit more, as I couldn't fit in my own exercise, which was always really important to me. Wasn't quite as engaged with my job in Melbourne as the one I had been with in Queensland. Found a job with local council down here in health promotion. Again, that was great for a few years to develop my contacts in the area. Wasn't quite what I wanted to do though. And I did see a few local gaps in the industry locally. So I just decided to start trying my own thing, and it built from there. So I was still working at council full time when I started my own business, which is a sport development business. So we started running a few coaching sessions per week for kids in swimming and running. So it was just me to start with, and we might have been running three sessions a week, 2 mornings and an afternoon. And that just got busier and busier. And as it got busier, I dropped off work at council. So I went down to 4 days a week, down to 3 days a week.
Perfect.
So mid-2014 was when I left there completely. And I've just been working full time on the business ever since. And yeah, where it is today is we run lots of programs for organisations. So we work within a few big schools and run their sports academy programs, or we manage their gym, manage their health and wellness programs. We do a little bit of consultancy, sports strategy, etc., for schools and organisations as well. We work with a lot of clubs running coach education and academy style programs. And then we do a range for the community as well, where, I guess it's more a business to consumer model, where people enroll in our swimming squads, our running groups, our athlete
nippers,
development.
I saw nippers.
Nippers, yep. So yeah, work with a lot of different sports as well. So there's about 8 different sports we run specialist programs in. And yeah, that's how it runs. And it's gone through a lot of iterations over the years, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yep.
Yeah, so I guess in a nutshell, that's how it came to be where I am. How I started. I wasn't someone who grew up wanting to run my own business, believe it or not.
Okay, I was going to ask that. Yep.
In fact, my dad ran his own businesses, and that was quite a negative experience for our family.
Mm-hmm.
So I was quite scared by it, and there's probably still a lot of things that I don't do that well because of that fear you grew up with, and I have to be really coached to do those things. So yeah, that's where we've come from.
So I really like how you were able to integrate your business into your life, and like you minimized your hours that you're working with the council. So I guess from a business startup perspective and a cash flow perspective, it was quite a protected entry into the business.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we were lucky because, you know, we weren't a product-based business or a business that required us to take on board a lease or anything like that. Yeah. So it was literally my qualifications and insurance, and sometimes some venue hire or lane hire. Yep. But that was only based on usage. So I didn't have to pay lease on a venue. So, you know, it was a very low cost entry point to start our business. But at the same time, I didn't have a huge amount of finances behind me to say I'm just going to quit and work on it full time for a year and that's my income. So yeah, it was protective. It was keeping my income until I felt I was confident enough to make that jump. And then in hindsight, I wish I'd actually saved up more.
Okay.
So I was just so excited about running the business, and that's what I actually love doing. I love working with the community and helping people and coaching and all that sort of stuff. And it was tracking really well, and I was just so excited. And then 4 months later, I'm thinking, oh, should have actually had a bit of a bigger buffer. So yeah, it's all worked out now.
That obviously, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And so from that trajectory, did you start with like just one sport? Was it swimming because that was your strength, or did you start with a couple?
Yeah, so it was mainly triathlon. So I guess the gaps I saw in the industry, because I spoke about that, because I think I was having such a disconnect with the roles that were available down here. Knew I didn't want to travel to Melbourne. I was thinking, you know, what can I do that's actually needed? So my background was in triathlon and surf lifesaving. They were 2 sports down here at the time. So this was 8 years ago, which weren't very well catered for in the youth. So there was a lot of triathlon groups, but they didn't run any junior specific programs.
Okay.
So I started running some junior programs for that, using my knowledge from working with the Sports Commission in developing junior programs. So not only was it something new, but it was something that was done at quite a high standard Australia-wide. So it really made people go, oh, wow, this is different. You know, it's not just coming in. So we ran junior triathlon. And another gap I saw was, obviously there's a lot of surf lifesaving clubs down here. We are on the surf coast, and a lot of them weren't running swimming training for their nippers. And they were having some issues with the local swimming clubs who didn't really want to cater for surf lifesaving style of swimming. They wanted to cater for competitive pool swimming. Sure. Yeah. So yeah, the first 2 things we did was swimming squads catered specifically for surf lifesavers and junior triathletes. And that's what we grew from there.
So, all right. So just a few statistical questions. You mentioned, or I don't know if you mentioned before we started recording or not, you have some interns. How do you staff all these different groups that you're running, all the different competitions?
Yeah, that's interesting. So we did go through a stage of having employees. I found that more stressful than anything that I've ever dealt with in business, and absolutely nothing to do with the people. The people were actually really good. It was more all the processes that I had to keep on top of to be able to have them. And I guess just that consistent, I mean, we're not a seasonal business, but we are one where we are, I guess, term-based. So the cash flow goes like this.
Okay, yep.
And so it's very programmatic based. And yeah, it was really quite hard just on my mental health to make sure that, you know, you're always keeping payroll and that sort of stuff. So we don't actually have employees anymore. We made all those roles redundant a little while ago, which I'm really with the situation we're currently facing, I'm really happy with that choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we have a range of great contractors working for us. So I had a contractor, when I say I had, I'm hoping she can come back to us when this is over. Right now, she's not working for us. She did all of our admin work and coordination. I had someone else who did social media. She was great as well. And then I've got a range of sports coaches and strength and conditioning coaches. Again, they're all contractors, so they all work elsewhere, run their own business.
Yep.
And we have a really strong relationship with Deakin Uni. So something I'm really passionate about is the industry of exercise and health science. And I believe it's getting more and more professional every year. So exercise science students now have to do a combined total of, I think it's 220 practical hours before they graduate. So 80 in their second year and 140 in their third year.
Wow.
So we have a huge
That's
intern
awesome,
program. It is great because, I mean, that's what teachers and nurses and doctors and everyone do. So why shouldn't sports scientists do that as well?
Absolutely.
And exercise physiologists. So we work with about 30 students per year. Some of us stay for the whole year. They're third year, final year students, and they do 140 hours. Some work with us per uni trimester. So we'll get another 8 to 10 students every trimester, and that's more an observation prac. Something we're really proud of is our staff training program. So with our interns, we actually offer extensive training. So when they come on board with us, they actually get hooked up with a mentor who's one of our staff members.
Oh, I love that.
And then we have a professional development program they go through. So essentially our interns are treated like staff members, and that's what we have. That's the expectations we have of them too.
Yep.
So, you know, the induction process we go through with them is the same we go through with our staff. So, you know, we don't just have an intern show up in inappropriate clothes and doing things that we're not happy with, and they actually understand how it works. And I think
they're learning a level of professionalism as well.
Yeah, exactly. So with our sports academy programs, for example, the reason we're able to have them run so well is because of the interns. Because, you know, it is something that parents, we like to keep affordable for them. And if we have 30 kids on a football field, we might have 2 staff members and we might have 3 interns. So essentially you've got a staff member for every 6 to 8 kids, which is amazing for their feedback and their skills. And a lot of our interns, so our football program at the moment, for example, we've got 2 Geelong Cats AFLW players who are interns.
Oh, wow.
So
a nice level of skill.
Exactly. So, you know, it's not just because they're called an intern, and this is what we say to them. We say, you are a staff member, okay? You wear your Team Hemley t-shirt. We expect the same from you as the staff members. You know, utilise your skills, because they all have different skills and different things that they do well, and that we learn from as well. So it's really great having that intern program. So I actually sit on the advisory board for exercise and sports science at Deakin Uni. So we meet 3 times a year. It's a lot of practical placement hosts like us who work with a lot of interns, just feeding back to the uni about their course, you know, what the students are doing well, where the gaps are.
It's making their course more relevant too, isn't it?
Exactly. So that's a relationship we really enjoy, and that's a huge part of our staffing.
That's a win-win.
It's a win-win for everybody. Yeah, and what we do is a lot of so we call it a graduate role. So by the end of each year, we actually offer the top 5 or 6 students, would you like to be a graduate strength and conditioning coach next year? And as I said, that allows them to set up their own business, because I think the best thing you can do as an exercise and sports science graduate is start having some experience of working for yourself. Yeah. So we encourage them through that whole process, you know, getting their own ABN, insurance, etc. And we provide X amount of work and further PD for them.
Yeah.
And they keep working for us. So we get to keep the good ones. So it's an extended job interview as well.
Gosh, it's awesome. I love it. That's perfect.
Yeah. We're about 3 years into that relationship and it's worked so well.
Well, I just see it as a win everywhere, like right to the clients and for the parents who are paying for your clients. So,
and I think with coaching as well, because it's so much about relationships, you know, I've made a lot of mistakes over the years in having coaches on board who I hadn't worked with before, but I might have been impressed by their resume. You know, they've had great experience, they've got a lot of qualifications, etc. Haven't fit our philosophies at all.
Yep.
So now I actually only employ as our coaches interns who've come through our Deakin program, or athletes who've trained with us. So I've got a lot of really great coaches at the moment for swimming, for example, who are in their early 20s, who might have swam with us since they were 13, 14 years old. and now have their swimming coaching qualifications. And they just coach exactly like me because they had me talking to them on pool deck for 7 years. So even though we run PD, I find I have to do very little to guide them in what I want them to do because they're familiar with the processes and the expectations.
And it's the culture, isn't it? You're making
and the culture,
sure,
yeah.
You're making sure that you know that the end user is getting a consistent experience that you want them to have.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So can you take me back, you know, a year ago, 6 months ago, 4 months ago, and tell me how everything was happening on a daily basis to transitioning to now? We're still in COVID. We're still in lockdown. We're still, restrictions have eased a little. At the time of this recording, I think you can have, is it groups of 5?
Groups 10 outside.
Yeah. So can you talk us through that?
Yeah, sure. So I might even take you back a bit further than that, if that's all right.
Yeah, wherever you want to
go. Because I think one of the reasons we've coped so well, I guess, mentally through this period is we're used to being in crisis because the last 2.5 years have been pretty up and down. So to start with, it looked for a little while like we might be selling our business. This was the start of 2018, end of 2017. Long story short, we went through all these processes and then it just didn't work out. And it was quite crushing and just, it takes a while to pick yourself up from that, as a lot of business owners would know.
Yes,
and then
absolutely do.
The day, part of that was we moved out of where we'd taken on board a lease, which again was a huge stress. So at that stage I had a rental lease, I had staff, I had a broken business relationship, and it was just like, so it's feeling very suffocated. And I was moving forward, and I think that's something you learn as an athlete and you take on board to your business. The day we moved out of our rental lease, which was really great, and we had some really understanding landlords, and we actually moved all of our equipment into the school we work with, which was a win-win as well. So when we were looking to move out of there, I actually said to the school, because I didn't have any equipment and we had a bunch of equipment now and nowhere to put it. And I said, is this something you would like and you could use during the school day, and we could use it to work on our school programs before and after school? And they thought that was amazing. So we'd had this big move, and then the next day my husband had a major cycling accident. So we moved from our office on the Friday, and on the Saturday, I remember I slept in. He was out riding his bike, got a phone call later in the day that he'd had a crash. The next 14 weeks he was in hospital.
Oh my goodness.
So, and I won't go into details now because I'll get too emotional, but he was in a coma, all sorts of things.
My husband cycles, that's what I think of all the time.
Yeah, and when the accident actually happened, I was at the gym, and I was at the gym in the afternoon, and I'm never at the gym in the afternoon. I'm there in the morning. And when I came out, I actually had 5 missed calls from a friend of mine, and she just happened to be at the scene of the accident. So she was trying to get hold of me. And I remember I was at the gym thinking, whew, the worst is over. It's all going to be smooth from now on. And then I've come out of the RACV where the phone reception's not good and all these missed calls have come through. And I'm like, oh, that's a bit strange because, this friend of mine, she's a good friend, but she's not someone who'd ring me 5 times within an hour unless something was wrong. Anyway, it was one disaster after another, but I think what that taught me, that period, was it was okay for me to step back from a business that has my name and everything would be okay. And it was a really big learning curve as far as staff training, I guess letting go of stuff, handing things over to staff to run things. So even though I was still financially stressed from a lot of the stuff happening at the start of the year, the stress of actually running my own business was taken away, and I could actually be there for my husband, all of that sort of
priorities.
Stuff. Yeah, and that set up our business really well for last year. So last year we had a ripper year. We had our best year ever in regards to programs. Everything was settled. We had good relationships with local schools, clubs, a really good retention base with our clients. That worked out really well. And then in August, I found out October, I found out I was pregnant, was really sick. So I had hypermesis for all of term 4. So again, had to step away. And I think this is where I might have got a little bit cocky in my head, because I'm like, no worries now, everything's sorted. We learned so much last year with the business. Yeah. I know how to do this. If I'm not there, I know how to handle challenges. I know how to do this. And then we've had COVID. So it felt like, And I've actually been watching a few videos and listening to a few podcasts, I guess, for inspiration on how other people are handling this period. So whether they're people or business owners or they're athletes, etc. And a lot of people have spoken about this, how they've coped with crisis in their business before, and that's helped them be able to handle what COVID's thrown at them relatively quickly. But what feels different is that you're going through the crisis with everybody, as opposed to just you going through it and then having to operate as normal. So in that way, it's been easier, because when I've gone through when I've gone through all these crises in the last few years, from business breakdown to family members' accidents to sickness to we lost a pool venue at the start of the year, and that was a whole other matter because that was quite unexpected as well. So, you know, there's been a few different things. I've been going through the crisis, and you've had to sort of manage that, because I can't let that feeling get to my staff, because you don't want them to carry that. And you don't want to project it onto your clients either. Whereas this time, because every single person's going through it, I've actually found it easier, because I've found there's a lot more compassion from our client base. If we need to be flexible, or things need to change, or things aren't perfect, there's a lot more compassion from our students, because sometimes students, as much as I love working with them, they can be quite self-absorbed. Like, I sent you an email yesterday and you haven't replied, you know, just stuff like that.
I've got 3 kids in that age group. I get it.
And you know what? I love working with the students. It's one of my favourite things of what we do. But yeah, sometimes it's like, guys, I've got a whole bunch of things to do. I will get back to you. And so, anyway, so yeah, I've actually found in that regard, it's been a bit easier. So yeah, and I think the staff we've built over the years, so as I said, we are contractors, like there hasn't, in the last few years when I've had to change our model so that we haven't had staff, I've had some really difficult conversations, and they've been really hard, I think, because from that person's point of view, as I said, I'm in the crisis, but they're not. So they're like, well, what's wrong? This is going great. I'm doing a great job. What's the issue here? Whereas this time round, every single contractor who's stepped back, like often they offered. They're like, it's all good. I've got JobKeeper. Don't worry about it. So they've been really supportive as well. So yeah, I think, sorry, that's a very long-winded answer.
No, it's great. It's great.
But I think, and there has been, saying that, there's been days I've been in tears and it's like, I just can't do this.
Overwhelmed.
But then generally, I feel pretty good. And I think what's probably been most overwhelming is the constant change. So it's not just, especially I guess being the state I'm in, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? The fact that I'm having a baby next week at some stage, because I'm going to be induced if she's not here. The fact that I guess that's been happening, I've been trying to plan to cover my business while I'm away. And just as you plan, they change the regulations. And just as you plan that this might happen. So yeah, just having to keep on top of that and constantly communicate it to the staff who are going to be working as me and our client. That's probably what's been overwhelming from my point of view. But the actual changes we've had to implement haven't been.
Okay. So you've been pretty fast in implementing those changes. So you've gone from obviously a face-to-face environment to an online environment. Can you just talk through?
Yeah, sure. So obviously coaching particularly youngsters. So we mainly work with that adolescent 10 to 15-year-old age group, or high school age students. Excuse me. Pregnancy thing, I think.
No, that one too.
Just if you're going, so that's face-to-face. Like we've never really worked online before. So we've gone from face-to-face sessions to running a timetable of Zoom sessions. So we've done, we've got a program called Strength for Sport, where the kids get their own individualised strength program. That's actually a progressive curriculum over 3 years. What we do is we send the kids their programs with links to a YouTube channel we've set up, so they can check out all of their exercises beforehand, but then they still get guidance from the coach through Zoom. And we've also set up a range of sports coaching sessions through Zoom, which have taken a lot of creativity. So we're running basketball, netball, AFL, soccer, swimming. Obviously swimming's more strength-based, whereas all the other sports cover skills as well. What else? Nippers, water polo and hockey. So we've been running
nippers out.
So Yeah. So they're the sessions we've been running up till this week, because again, regulations have changed, on Zoom and online. And sorry, to get rid of that on the screen. And that's been an interesting challenge. And we've had kids that have really embraced it, kids which have kind of embraced it, and kids which haven't wanted to at all, or have had some sort of barrier at home, as in bandwidth or internet connection.
Yes.
Or 2 parents working at home and 4 kids working at home for school, and they're just over computers. So yeah, we've had the classes. We've also had a free YouTube channel that we set up. So the YouTube channel now has 300 videos on it, and all focused on strength exercises. And then we have playlists for netball, and the netball exercises are all solo pairs or groups of 3 drills that we just got our coach to put together. So as soon as we knew that this was happening, we actually had 2 days where we could film at the school we work at, and we just did as many videos as we could and put them up on the channel. A lot of the strength videos we were prepared for, because as I said, we've got quite an extensive training program with our interns. They were already on an internal staff Google Drive.
Perfect.
So it was just a matter of transferring them over. So like I was saying to you in a previous chat, ideally we would have had, the same branding for all the videos, a professional studio, etc. The reality was we just needed them up so that we could communicate to our sports academy kids who are now learning remotely with a PDF with video links. And same with our strength program athletes, a PDF with video links. We just needed that there for them. And it didn't really matter if they all matched, or some were filmed on an iPhone outside a staff member's house, and others were filmed on an iPad at the school across the road from where someone lived. It was just getting them all up there. And we've had really good feedback about that channel. So yeah, the streams we've gone into: Zoom classes, remote learning programs through our schools, online consultations and fitness programming, the YouTube channel development. We created some ebooks that were 8-week training programs for things like rowing and swimming, which was just progressive strength programs people could do at home. So that's sort of where we've headed in the last few weeks.
So it was, you already had you created what you had to do, and then you had stuff in your head and on your disk's computer that you dumped in all different formats.
And that was it. And I think the main thing for us was, because we work with young people, it was just dealing with their fear in a way. We just wanted to keep them engaged. And a lot of them were stressing out, because we had a few weeks where people were people were making their own decisions to take their kids out of school or not come to training, etc. So the kids that were still coming, there's just constant questions. There was a lot of fear. And I think for this age group, this is the first time they've dealt with uncertainty in their lives. So it was quite confronting for them. So for us to be able to say, don't worry, we're still here. I think
it's that structure that they crave, isn't it?
So we actually finished up about a week and a half, 2 weeks before our intended term 1 program. So we wanted to keep providing for the people who were enrolled, but just keep that connection mainly with the kids. And that's what they've loved. So when we go in our Zoom swimming class, for example, there's about 15 kids. First 5 minutes, they're just chatting.
I was going to say, they're seeing each other. And that's what they were doing in the change rooms.
Yeah, exactly. And it was actually quite cute last week, because we've been running a running. There's a running training session we do on a Friday afternoon. And there's these 2 little girls, they're about year 4, I think, and they're best friends. And they just spend the whole Zoom trying to look at each other and talk to each other, and because they miss each other. And last Friday, because obviously restrictions have lifted in Victoria, Wednesday, you're allowed to go to people's houses. I turned on the computer and they're both on the same screen. And I'm like, are you guys together? And they're like, yes. And we're having a barbecue afterwards. So they were just so excited that they got to see each other and they could still do their session and see their coach, even though that wasn't allowed yet. So
I mean, besides the fact that this is your business, for the clients, it's social engagement, and the physical, it's helping with the mental. So they're kind of getting everything in a time where they didn't know when they could get any of that again. So
and I guess this is why I went into the last 2.5 years as well, why it hasn't.
Hi, we're back. We just had some technical issues, just like everyone else around the world who is dealing with internet overload. So hopefully we'll transition back.
We actually tried some Facebook Live over the school holidays. So what we actually did, the first 3 or 4 weeks of, I guess, the COVID lockdown, we had a free Facebook page where we did Facebook Live workouts. And they worked quite well. The coaches actually struggled with them a little bit because I think coaches are like the participants. They like that social interaction. And when you're doing Facebook Live, you don't get anything back. And what we were finding to start with, we were getting huge numbers. We're getting 40 to 50 people signing on and doing, you could see them doing the session. And often that would be 3 or 4 people in the one house on the one modem doing it. So there was lots of people and we got great feedback. But as the weeks went by, people knew they could just access it at a later time. So you might get 5 or 6 people on live. So we thought we might as well do a recording. And we did that for about 4 weeks. And then we stopped it because we wanted to go to Zoom because we wanted to have that feedback. And I guess we wanted to, our business model, we have annual members, people who paid up for the whole year. We wanted to be able to provide them with something that was different to what everyone else was getting. And we also put that up so people could sign up for the term or for individual classes to come and join us on Zoom as well. So I guess it was, we still needed to make some revenue by that stage. And we wanted to look after clients who were loyal to us through that period.
So we're kind of coming, like we just said before, we're up to 10 people at the one time. I guess, what are your thoughts kind of from here leading out of COVID? I mean, and then there's the whole thing, will there be a phase 2 if we go out too soon? But I guess you can just revert back to the business model you've got now. So I guess kind of thinking about it, how do you see the progression out?
Yeah, well, we're pretty, and a lot of our clients, they're pretty desperate to get back to face, to be honest. So we thought as soon as we're able, we will start providing some opportunities. Not everybody is. A lot of people are quite in their routine of being at home and homeschooling and all of that sort of stuff. Some people don't have the capacity yet because parents are still working from home, so they can't physically get their child to a face-to-face session. And we're also restricted by the numbers we can work with, the venues we can use. We're not, because we're a private organisation, we're not a registered club with Basketball Victoria or AFL Victoria, etc. So we don't have to abide by their guidelines. We don't have to, but we want to, because we don't want to be doing anything that brings those relationships undone, or just does anything that, as I said, we don't want to cause a second wave either, or do anything that disrupts any community harmony. So we're trying to keep on top of all of those guidelines as well. So this week's actually been our first week of face-to-face sessions. We've just put on 3 different options, a few running and a nippers session. So they're all sessions which are outside. We can spread the kids out easily, abide by social distancing rules. Quite a few of them are filled up already. So we had max of 10 had to book in. I think we had a few different time options on a few nights. So there might have been 6 options for classes all up, and 2 are fully booked and the others only have 1 or 2 spots left. So, I think that need was there, and we'll just keep building on that through this school term with the hope that next school term, which is mid-July to the end of July, we can pretty much run what we're intending to run for the rest of this year. I think for the rest of this year, we'll run a fairly similar business model to what we were running at the start, but there is quite a lot of implementations I've learnt and change. And I guess particularly when we have time in regards to tech that I want to follow up moving forwards. I guess being that I keep saying the stage, I am about to have a baby very soon. And the fact there's been so much change already, I don't really want to just keep changing things over the next few months. So we will go back. We will go back to a very similar model to what we were running at the start of the year and what was communicated to all of our clients for the rest of this year. Moving forward, I can see us utilising tech a lot more because we have had a lot of wins. So for example, I want to keep building on the YouTube channel. I think there's some scope for paid subscription channels with webinars and information, etc. We've managed to pick up a few, as I said, our main focus was engaging with our current clients, but we've actually managed to pick up a few new ones who live nowhere near us, who are keen to continue. So I think with things like our strength programs online, they can definitely continue. And something I've explored for years is app development, to the extent where I've even gone and got apps costed and mapped. So
Okay.
had the initial consultations done
Yep.
and then been given the quote and gone, yeah, maybe not yet.
Not yet.
But now I think we've actually got all of the resources built up to develop quite a few different apps, which I'm really excited about, and membership education sites,
Okay.
which, as I said, we've been working on for years, but they've kind of been half done. And this has been a good prompt to sit and reflect and go, okay, well, actually what will work moving forward for this business. And I think the beauty of this situation is we've actually been given an opportunity to show people that it can work. I think,
absolutely.
particularly with our client base, it's parents of busy kids. They don't have time to process when there's any little change. Like our communications, if we've had to change a time from 4:30 to 5 p.m, that's a major cause for freak out and concern, because that's just too much change to deal with sometimes.
As a
whereas
who went through that stage, you have your week scheduled to the minute.
I can understand.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me, I'm not making fun of it. I understand completely. Just as the business owner, whenever we've had to make a change like that, it's been so stressful, because people will not get them, or they'll be, anyway. So just little changes, well, not little, that can have a big impact on your week, like you just said. Just changes like that, which is, I guess, quite simplistic, as opposed to, hey, we're not going to run this class anymore, but we're going to provide it online. I think that would have been too much for people to handle 6 months ago.
For sure.
Whereas now I think some people would go, actually, we'd prefer to stick with that because that works better. We don't have to get anybody anywhere. They can do it at home.
Yeah.
All of that sort of stuff. So I think it's actually given us an opportunity.
Taken away by default.
Yes. Yeah. So I think I'm actually really excited about what the future can hold. I haven't completely decided how that's going to work yet, but there will be quite a few changes. And I would like to professionalize our online services a bit more, because it's been in such a rush and such a hurry. Yeah, I would like to do things a bit prettier, I guess is the way, but we're just done is better than not done, I think, in times like this.
Absolutely.
So
you stayed engaged with your clients, which is really the number one thing.
Yes.
And what you're saying is important, but it is secondary to what you actually got done. So
yeah, and we sat down as a staff when this first started happening and said what is important, and that was our number one thing. Was remaining engaged with our current client base and our current athletes. And if we brought on new people or new systems, that was just a bonus, which has happened. So that's been good. And we've had a lot of really patient, understanding people waiting till when we get back to face-to-face. So yeah, it's interesting to see how the world will come out of this, because as I said, some people are hanging out to, I guess, what was the previous normal. Others are excited about the future and what those changes could be. And other people are quite happy to stay in isolation like they are right now, and they don't want to move from this. So I can see all 3 points of view.
Yeah, I see it all as well, and I'm kind of hoping for some kind of hybrid model. I don't want to go back to how crazy it was.
No,
you don't want to live completely in isolation. So yeah, I think it's going to be like, I'm loving that my husband doesn't commute for so long each day. So and like I said, he's training for the 70.3, so he's got all the time taken up for commuting. He's putting into his training, so he's loving life.
He'll be fitter than ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. No, I think that's the case for a lot of people. And something I've liked is I've told you about all of our Zoom coaching sessions. Any one night in term one, for example, we might be operating programs from 3 or 4 different venues, and I would be driving around, and often I'd get to maybe 1 or 2.
Yep.
Not always. Sometimes I might be at the one place because I'm helping out with a program or coach. Other times I get to 2 or 3 venues in a night. But yeah, I'd be gone for 2 or 3 hours, pop in, etc. On the other day on Zoom, I popped into 4 classes as a silent observer in about 15 minutes. So I wonder how many kids have got in basketball. Yep, cool. Had a look, jumped out, went over to soccer. So yeah, I couldn't do that.
That's going to be handy when you have a baby as well.
Yeah, I presume so.
When you're juggling
I'm hoping, same thing. I think sports coaching is best face-to-face, but it's been great we've been able to do this through this time, but that's been a good benefit, I guess, as I've gotten so big and awkward and haven't really wanted to jump in the car for huge amounts of time.
All right, so just looking, these are kind of not specific to COVID at all, just a few
Yep.
questions. Like, hindsight is awesome, and we're all very,
Yes.
very wise. You did say that you wished you had a bit more capital going into the business, but are there other things that either you wish you'd done? You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just it. But looking back, is there anything or a few things that you think, I wish I'd done that better, I wish I knew that? Or are there, conversely, some things that you went, well, I didn't know it, but that worked out brilliantly?
Yeah, I think the main ones for me, they're all connected to that lack of capital. I think I'm a very emotional worker. Like, I've always loved what I do, and that's probably the most important thing to me. Whereas considering things like what capital I have behind me, what cash flows coming in, whether a certain initiative that I really love running and really want to run is the best from a business and profit point of view. They're probably the things I've always struggled with. And my husband is the complete opposite to me, and he'll often pull me back to reality and say, well, you know, why are you still running that? What's that? So I think that's a good balance, but often we'll butt heads over that because I don't want to hear that. Because So I think in hindsight, probably listening to more advice like that. What was the second part of the question? Things that have worked out well that I haven't expected.
Well, I mean, you just, the same thing, you went along doing it, but it actually worked out fine.
Yeah, I think, like I was alluding to before, the younger coaches and the interns and staff, I didn't expect that to work so well. I think when I first started working, I would really be searching for coaches with huge amounts of experience, great qualifications, even set names. And I think in somewhere like Geelong and the Surf Coast, people get very set, like and I think it's changing. Parents would ask, who's the coach? Who's the coach? And there might be 3 or 4 coaches per sport that they'd actually respect. And it would usually be somebody who'd been coaching for 15 to 30 years in the area. So now I actually have great confidence in our staff that we have. They're all early to mid-20s, but I feel confident because they've all been through our processes. They've all been trained extensively. They've got that energy. They gain the knowledge they need from our PD and from me, I guess, essentially. And they do a great job. And I think we've really built our business on that now. Whereas when I've had negative feedback about staff, it's always been the ones I've been most confident putting in the past. Because I was, they were so experienced or so qualified or had done this. And they haven't fit our culture, or they haven't completely coached like I have. And not saying that's the only way to do it, but I think you attract what you believe in and what you do. So we're very clear about, you know, what we stand for, how we run our sessions, the philosophies we believe in. So I think when you're coming to us, there's not many surprises. And if you don't believe in those philosophies, you don't come to us.
Or you're going to drop out pretty quick.
So coaches have probably worked better than I've expected since I made the decision that they'd either come through the intern pathway or one of our athletes.
That's really cool. What about, do you have any advice for people thinking about getting into their own business?
Well, I do, but I'm not quite sure how to articulate it. I've never been one for huge business plans. I'm very much a person that
jump in.
I'll have a basic plan, but I'm quite flexible for it. I think sometimes people can get stuck on the planning and they'll spend 6 to 12 months creating the perfect plan, and then they start and within 2 weeks they need to pivot because of something anyway. So I think have an idea and a vision of what you want to do. Talk to as many people who've done that as possible. And as we've spoken about a few times today, and this is something I guess I've realised in hindsight over the years too, is with mentors or people you can talk to about challenges in your business, it doesn't have to be someone who runs the same type of business. It can be
I agree, 100%.
Someone totally different. And I was actually just having a conversation with my sister, and she's currently unemployed because she was working at an events company, but she was the national general manager, so she was quite high up in this events company. And I was actually just asking her perspective on a few things moving forward, and she gave me some really great points because she's not in this industry
and she's not in your head. That's what
she's not in my head. She's not in sport development, she's in events. So she was saying, but if you said that to these people, they wouldn't know that, or they wouldn't think this. And I was clearly overthinking a few things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think speaking to as many people who run a business as possible, being willing to plan but be flexible, and I guess just not having those rose-colored glasses on that, you know, you're going to have heaps of free time and heaps of money and heaps of, you know, it is really hard work. I don't think people realise how hard it is until they've been through it.
No, and I think it's one of those things, as though you say that, until they experience that, that's
Yes, and it is, it's just one of those things. I think the more people you can speak to, the better.
Yep, I agree. And
that was probably what I didn't do, particularly for the first few years. I think coming from that government background, this was just so out of the norm for my normal colleague and people I hung out with. They're all my best friends that I grew up with and went to uni with. They're all teachers and, you know, work in sport development, health promotion, community development, etc. They often don't understand the challenges I face.
No, they can't. It's just a different frame of reference.
It's a different frame of reference. So I think finding people that you can speak to who've been through that, because I think I probably had a glorified view in my head that I'd have all this spare time, and I'd, like your husband, I was still competing at the time, I'd be able to train lots, and my training just went because I had no time, and my time was going into everyone else. So
yeah, for sure.
So yeah.
All right, that's awesome. Thank you. I think just on that last point, that's what I try to tell people as well. It doesn't have to be, you don't need to find someone who's run the exact business that you have.
Yeah.
Business is business. And there's so many things, like I think I said to you before we were recording, so many of your stories I can relate to when I was manufacturing, and they're completely different businesses. But
I wouldn't know anything about manufacturing, no.
No. But the business process of, you know, process, procedures, structure, all those kind of things are pretty much standard across the board. It's your product and your service is different. So I think that's a takeaway for people. Don't be afraid to speak to someone outside of your niche, because it can help. It's just a different perspective. I used to find I chew things over so much in my own head, you don't know which way's up anymore. So just getting someone who's completely disconnected to me, who's not living that day in, day out, they can just have, you know, just some fresh eyes on it. And I've always found that really helpful.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you so much. I'm just really, really grateful for your time. I think this has been such an interesting interview, and I think people are going to get so much out of it. And probably by the time I edit it and get it out, you will be a mum, so I can edit that back. I can edit that in at the end and tell everybody when and who and how big and all the rest of the...
Well, we know it's a girl.
All right, well, I'll let you go because you've got a million things to do. But again, I'm enormously grateful. So thank you. Good luck with everything. I'm going to put, if it's okay, your Facebook and your YouTube channel and everything for people to check out, because I was having a look yesterday and I was amazed at the diversity of the sports. I guess I was just thinking like running and swimming. And
well, that's all we're doing at the moment, so you're kind of right.
Yeah, no, I know, but you offer so much. So, and so thank you.
Yeah, no problems. It was great. Probably different to a normal interview I normally do, which is more about the specifics of coaching. So yeah, it was interesting to reflect.